A professional mixed martial artist insulting the dead father of another pro mixed martial artist, it's just weird. But some moments of MMA in 2023 may have been weirder. Number 1, they don't know Ferguson, son. Like the time David Goggins coached MMA fighter Tony Ferguson. You know David Goggins, right?
Get it! 18!
They don't know me, son!
Get it! 19!
They don't know me, son!
Yeah!
Yep, you're looking at a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, an ultra-marathon runner, ultra-distance cyclist, triathlete, public speaker, the toughest man alive, author of 2 memoirs. Phew, they really don't know him, son. But you know what was weird about this duo? The fact that not only was this collaboration so unexpected, but that it wasn't the regular kind of training for MMA. Let me explain. You see, Ferguson had entered UFC 296 on a losing streak of 6 consecutive bouts. So to turn things around for his favor in his next fight against Paddy Pimblett, Ferguson sought out help from the toughest man in the world. I'm telling you, this was like the time Apollo Creed met Rocky Balboa for training, but in real life. David Goggins would then put Ferguson through a series of intense, hardcore workout and cardio sessions through a period of time which Goggins tags Hell Week. And in order to survive Hell Week, you have to become the devil, quite figuratively put by Goggins. During Hell Week, there were comments from fans saying Tony should be sparring in punching bags rather than doing the kind of cardio Goggins was putting him through. But Goggins clapped back with a post which part of it was captioned, "I can tell that the vast majority of you have no idea what the you're talking about." That post did not age well. Fast forward to December 17, 2023, and Goggins is live at UFC 296 watching carefully as Pimblett folds Ferguson.
It was the coolest because nobody can break me, and I knew I had to go in there, not with that attitude, but damn, dude, coach, sir, chief, he damn near broke me. And I didn't know that he was testing me. I didn't know what was going on because we went through a lot.
Even though I've classified this coaching arrangement as weird, I'd like to clarify that Goggins coaching Ferguson wasn't the cringe or terrible kind of weird, but the good kind. Sadly, I can't say the same for MMA fighter Tom Aspinall in his interview with YouTuber UFC interviewer Nina Drama, because it is next level weird. Number 2, Tom the potential fingerer.
Have you ever been fingered by an MMA fighter before?
You can feel the awkwardness, the cringe, the intensity of absurdity oozing from this conversation. But hey, Nina doesn't feel that way, so who are we to judge?
Tom's a very funny guy, great personality. British humor and American humor are entirely...
This weird moment didn't happen in the ring, but it has earned its place on this list because MMA fans and even non-fans went wild in the comments section and on X. They kept talking about how weird and offensive the question was. Look, the kind of interviews that Nina Drama hosts are absurd, but in a good and funny kind of way, you know? Her interviews are genuinely refreshing for the fans watching and even the athletes being questioned. It's nice to see her not ask MMA fighters the same cliche questions that they normally get asked, like, "How do you feel about this?" or "How did you do this?" or "How's the family?" We don't care about those questions. We want to know if an athlete would rather poop once a month or have diarrhea every day.
Only being able to poop one time a month or diarrhea every day. Oh, sorry, it was a fan question.
Regardless of the humor and intentional absurdity of Nina's interviews, something about Tom's question just didn't sit right with a lot of people. Even when Nina went on X to clear the air, some people just won't let it go. Nina literally said, "Aspinall is funny as and he didn't offend me at all." But you'd see someone say something like, "Poor girl, you've been absolutely humiliated and verbally defiled, but still putting a brave face on it." Nina not getting offended by this question does not change the fact that this was a weird thing to ask. But it still does not come close to the time CJ Vergara ran a marathon inside the octagon. Number 3, CJ's marathon. And why did he run? Well, he was trying to recover from Daniel Lacerda's wheel kick and escape the punches that followed. Vergara literally sprinted away from his opponent, which is unlike anything we've ever seen in MMA, unless you count this, but we're getting to that. MMA isn't a self-defense or track sport. It is a fighting sport, and running away like Vergara did should be treated the same as a verbal submission. Sprinting away is not part of combat sports, and that is just one of the things that makes this really weird. Other things that make this weird would be the fact that the ref didn't call this a foul. The crowd didn't seem to see anything wrong with this, and our MMA fighter marathon runner ended up winning this match. Jaws were dropped during this match, and it wasn't even that of our fighters, but of that of the viewers watching this fight. Tell me, when have you ever seen an MMA fighter run away like this and win? I get that momentum shifts in MMA are unlike any other sport. A fighter can be down by a million and still win in an instant, but Vergara's comeback is indeed one in a million. This flyweight bout took place on March 25th during the UFC on ESPN 43 prelims, and everything was pretty normal until midway through round 1. Lacerda threw a wheel kick that made Vergara turn his back and run away the whole first round in a bid to defend himself, while still recovering against the charging Lacerda, who landed a few more solid punches. Somehow, someway, Vergara survived to round 2. Look, no one is asking Vergara to eat headshots, but this should be penalized. Come on, dude, you straight up turned your back on your opponent and run? Skipped to round 2 and Vergara's momentum increased while Lacerda's energy and success dwindled. Vergara was able to get on top of Lacerda on the ground and land dozens of strikes before referee Jason Herzog waved off the fight. This is honestly the most insane match I've ever seen, but it wasn't as insane as UFC President Dana White versus his wife, Anna White. Number 4, Dana slaps. This wasn't a fair fight at all. Just take a look at this domestic brawl. This is a man who has decades of experience as a fighter and trainer, slapping his wife in a Cabo San Lucas nightclub. I gotta say, the new octagon looks crazy. It just makes you wonder, why did this happen? Well, Dana said the violence was fueled by alcohol, and said it wasn't an isolated incident. But the fans, oh my god, the fans. Even though Dana and his wife apologized for their actions, fans went crazy making all sorts of speculations. Some said the headline should have read Dana White and his wife slapping each other in a nightclub, instead of Dana White slaps wife. I mean, she did kind of slap him first. Some even condemned Dana White as a wife beater, but he faced no consequences, and when he was asked about the same, he said, "This is my punishment, and I have to walk around as long as I live. Now I'm being labeled that way." Maybe another reason this slap happened was to promote UFC's newest product, slap fighting. Number 5, Dana slaps harder. That would have made introducing slap fighting to UFC, an MMA promotion company, more weird than it already was. In late 2022, Dana White and the UFC announced the creation of their Power Slap promotion, a sport which has been widely criticized due to safety concerns with some fighters suffering brutal knockouts. This is a sport that contrasts with MMA, because while MMA fighters have every opportunity to defend themselves in the ring, power slappers do not have the ability to defend themselves. Despite the criticisms of the sport's absurdity, Power Slap has been a huge success commercially.
This is a $450 million business in 9 months.
It's really crazy when you consider the fact that this is just a sport where people just slap each other, and a lot of people thought Dana was full of shit when he first started initiating the idea. And he kinda was full of shit. I said that because dude just saw a Power Slap video that had up to 350 million views and was like, okay, bet, I'ma do mine.
I started to see this stuff popping up on social media, and I said, what would happen if I did this?
Tell me, do you think it's weird that this sport is raking in such numbers? No matter how weird you think it isn't as weird as an MMA fighter beating a fellow MMA fighter outside the octagon. Number 6, the very unexpected and totally not staged brawl. I'm talking about what Sean Strickland did to Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 296.
To ingest it. So it started with Du Plessis sort of being shown Strickland. Oh, and then,
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
oh wow.
Out of nowhere.
So for some reason, 2 MMA fighters who are currently enemies were seated opposite each other at an MMA match. Strickland in front and Du Plessis behind. One minute they were laughing and smiling with each other, and the next they were pummeling each other with blows in the crowd. You gotta understand that these two are slated to fight at UFC 297 in January, in the first title defense of Tarzan, but because of this bout, their match will be a rematch of this bout that happened outside the cage at UFC 296. Following this unexpected brawl, Dana White took the blame and fined neither of them, even separated them when they almost got into a physical altercation during their press conference. Du Plessis kind of started the brawl at UFC 296, out of pettiness, I presume. You see, Du Plessis first booed Strickland with a thumbs down, and Strickland shot at him, then Du Plessis dodged and mouthed some words which I think are, "You think you can shoot me, you NPC MMA fighter?" causing Strickland to just go crazy on Du Plessis. Maybe this brawl wouldn't have happened if an even weirder moment didn't happen before this, way back in September. Number 7, styling on the last Stylebender. I'm talking about UFC 293, time Strickland won against Adesanya. The thing is, it was supposed to be Du Plessis' fight, but he couldn't fight it because he was suffering an injury. Even crazier, no one believed Strickland could beat Adesanya. Not only was Tarzan a massive underdog, he was also never considered that special for most of his career. But his underdog status changed in September 2023 because he was the right man in the right place at the right time. He had a shot at the title of UFC champion because of du Plessis' injury. In one of the biggest upsets in MMA history, what I like to call a very unlikely win, Strickland dominated the last Stylebender, winning by decision.
Likelihood, Sean Strickland has produced one of the biggest upsets in UFC championship history.
And maybe taking this L is why Adesanya called Manel Cape a cracker. Number 8, Izzy the last mouthbender. In all honesty, Cape deserved what was coming to him because he started it. It still doesn't change the fact that watching two adults exchange slurs on live TV was weird. Adesanya calling Cape a cracker was interesting to say the least. What if that line was reserved for Strickland, but Cape just got in the way? Number 9, Chelsea's Marathon. While CJ Vergara running away from Daniel Lacerda was insanely weird, Chelsea Chandler running away from Norma Dumont was mildly weird and insanely funny. We gotta talk about this before we get to the last and weirdest moment on this list. As it turns out, the women's featherweight fight at UFC Vegas 77 on July 15th had Chelsea go up against Norma Dumont. It was your regular MMA fight until Chandler started being on the receiving end of multiple punches. So to dodge said multiple punches, she started running away from her opponent to avoid damage, just like Vergara did. The MMA world took notice of the incident and took to social media to react to this. Interestingly, even Chandler also poked fun at herself for her actions on fight night as she uploaded a picture of herself running away from Dumont with the caption, "It was at that moment I knew I f***ed up." Hilarious. Number 10, the dead father. In 2023, there were quite some weird moments in the world of MMA, as you've seen so far, but I think a professional mixed martial artist insulting the dead father of another pro mixed martial artist just takes the crown. Colby Covington got a title shot at the welterweight championship in UFC 296 against Leon Edwards. Just so you know, he was out of action for almost 2 years following a victory over Jorge Masvidal, so it was surprising. Covington went ahead to give a tough fight to Edwards and dominated him, but ultimately lost the fight via unanimous decision. However, Covington made headlines before the fight for invoking Leon's father, implying that his murdered father was in hell. How do you pull such a pathetic stunt and still lose? Damn! Anyways, that's about it for the weirdest moments of MMA in 2023. Subscribe and I'll see you in my next video.